they'll look at who's this black man and they'll slam the door in his face because racism was very, very heavy. Financially, things weren't easy. My parents worked hard, every penny counted. Within 2 years of me arriving in the UK, they were divorced for whatever reason. My father was a spender. He'll make money, spend it. He liked to have a good time. My mother, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. I think I became a spender like my dad. I became a spender, mismanaging money, not looking after money, and things weren't going right. I found myself in over $100,000 in debt. And I reached a burnout. I reached burnout one day. Not many people know this story. That morning, my wife said, "Yeah, I'm doing well. Good to speak to you today."
Yeah. A lot of things when we're going to the questions to ask you, there were a lot of things that we're asking ourselves. The first one was, it's easy for somebody to look at you and say, look, he's driving a Ferrari, he lives in a nice place, his family is on vacation every single, like for a full month. Like, what? This never ends. He's living a life of enjoyment. And it's easy for us to look at you now and envy you. But for the first thing I want to know is, can you take us back to the childhood? What was environments like? Where did you grow up? What was your family like back in your childhood?
Wow, what was my family like? My upbringing. I was born in Accra, Ghana, and in my early years, first few years, I lived with my grandmother, and but she was getting old, so my brother and I, my older brother and I, we were told to go and live with my uncle. So so we moved from Adabraka area, Accra, to Dansoma, Accra, to live with my uncle. And so my parents, or my dad, had an opportunity. He was invited to work in the UK. So he grabbed that opportunity. So the year I was born, he went to the UK to work. And I believe, and in the same year, my mother went with him as well. So they went to the UK. So I was raised by my grandmothers, raised by my uncle and my auntie in Dansoma for a few years. So at the age of 8, 9, that's when I went to the UK. And so I studied it. So I started school in the UK, new country, new people, new school, new everything. So, so starting from the bottom and yeah, it was tough. It was strange. It was different, you know. So those were the early days. So my father was he worked hard when he came to the UK. He came to the uni before he died. My children and I had long conversations with him, and apparently when he came to the UK, he had £50 in his pocket. That was it, £50 in his pocket. And from that, he grafted hard. He started off as because in those days, in the early 70s, 60s and 70s, the UK were crying out, needed a lot of help around different infrastructure. And they needed a lot of nurses and these kind of. So my dad trained to be a nurse. Not that he wanted to. His background in Ghana was he was an engineer. But he came to the UK. He had to do whatever he needed to do to survive. So after many years several years as a nurse, he decided that he's going to follow his passion. He actually met some people. He got some mentors. He found some people. My dad was very strange like that. He liked to talk to people, find out what's going on. And he found someone. He said he found someone one day. He met someone who was driving a nice car, and he said, "Hey, this guy is a black man like me. How he looks like he's doing so well." So he approached him and asked him to had a conversation with him. And the guy says, "Yeah, I make my money I do insurance, financial services." And my dad thought, "Oh, that might be a good angle to go." And he said to him, "Can you introduce me how to?" And remember, my dad's not qualified in financial advice, insurance. And so he started contacting different companies, and then he'll get rejected. And finally, there was one company who said, "Okay, we'll help you. We'll train you up." So he just listened to everything and did everything they said. And he wasn't doing so well. They were about to sack him. And then he said, "Hey, what if I just focus on the Ghanaian community? Because they need insurance. They don't pay attention to insurance." And so that's what he did. And he started to succeeded. He started to do well within the Ghanaian and Black community. So that's what because then, later on in years, I was thinking, oh, he chose a niche, because the other niches weren't working for him. He'll tell me he'll go to certain doors to try and sell them. They'll look at, who's this Black man, and they'll slam the door in his face. Why? There's a the because racism was very, very heavy. But he doesn't take rejection like that. So he found a way. My mom was a nurse as well. And because that was the demand, like, she stuck to nursing throughout her whole career. She had a long, many years of nursing career. I think she had 40 or 45 years as a nurse, and then she retired back to Ghana. So when we talk about my early days, I watched my grandmother, I watched my uncle and my auntie in Ghana. Um, I watched how my father and my mother did things. They were hard workers, very hard working. And when I started work, I became a hard worker, because that's what I thought you had to do. And when I started my business, I was working hard, 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 because I thought that's what you had to do. So those were my early days with my parents, and financially things weren't easy. My parents worked hard, every penny counted. But they divorced. But I came to the UK at the age of 9. Within 2 years of me arriving in the UK, they were divorced for whatever reason. So I watched their relationship. I watched how they dealt with money, how they talked about money. Uh, my mother became a single parent. She had to, survive. My dad would also support us in every way. So all those things that I would watch. And I suppose it formed my mentality, my thinking, my way of doing things in different ways, I think.
So financially, with how your parents were, because they are working hard, every penny counts. What did that make you think of money from a young age?
Think of money. My dad was, my father was very, how can I, if I can explain it this way, my father was a spender. He'll make money, spend it. He liked to have a good time. He liked to have his friends around, have parties. People knew him in the community. My mother, on the other hand, was the exact opposite. She was a saver. She was very quiet. She doesn't like to make too much noise. Her business is her business. So these are two different opposite behaviors, opposite ways of doing things. Uh, I think I became a spender like my dad. I became the spender, mismanaging money, not looking after money. And it was to my detriment. I had to learn the hard way. So, and eventually, when I started learning about money management, things changed. But yeah, I became a spender as well, like my father.
So at what point did you find a switch to see that, hey, enough of being like my father, now I need a mixture of both? Because you seem to be like the type of person who likes to have a good time, but the ability your world as well.
Yeah, yeah. So what happened was this: I had to learn the hard way. The After spending 10 years in the corporate environment, working for other companies, other people, I decided to start my own business. When I started my own business, then that's when I really started to learn about everything that I needed to learn to be where I am now. And that's what happened. Then my business partners had cheated on me. Things weren't going right. My wife was pregnant with our second child, and I'm hardly at home. I'm working 19 hours a day, not 20 hours a day, not sleeping, and I reached a burnout. I reached burnout one day in my car. I parked 5 minutes from home. I didn't want to go home after work that day. And I was sitting there with my hands on the wheel, just feeling sorry for myself, thinking I'm such a failure. Things weren't going right. And then I started attending different courses. because I really wanted to change. I started reading books on success and money and wealth and all this kind of stuff. And what I discovered is that successful people do things, they have certain habits and behaviors. Rich people, wealthy people, they all have certain behaviors, attitudes, mindsets. So that's when I started to change. Now, if I wanted to be a success, if I wanted to be rich, if I wanted to be wealthy, what did I need to do? And so that also incorporates money. So I learned how to start managing money. I started managing money better. So when my business partner cheated on me in my first business and things weren't going right, I found myself in over $100,000 in debt. In other words, money that I owed other people, loans that I borrowed, credit cards, money I owed other people. And so all that was just too overwhelming for me. And so when I started learning about managing money and investing money, so over the years that I became from over 100,000 in debt to becoming a multimillionaire, that wasn't by accident. It was learning how to do that and actually being persistent, resilient, and focusing on exactly what my outcome was. And some of that was also to step away from people who didn't fit in that vision that I had for my life, for my family. So when you talk about um, time, that kind of mentality and the way I've set things up gives me the freedom to do the things I want to do. So we've just come back from 4 weeks or a month away in the Caribbean, just having a good time together because it's the way I've designed or structured my life to have good businesses, have money, have different sources of income, have time with my family, have time for my wife, because all those things are important to me.
Now, all of that is beautiful. I mean, I was looking at the picture. The one particular picture I saw with Linda in the middle, and then I think you and Brandon had done a shake. I don't know if it was Tiana and someone else had done a cake there, matcha cake. And as I was looking at the picture, I was like, the landscape you are feeling sorry for yourself in the car. There's no way that you would have seen that. Now,
No.
I want us to go back to that line. What was going through your mind, like that moment, that feeling, that 10 minutes, 30 minutes, because I'm sure you were lost in time when you were in the car with tears streaming down your face. What was going through your mind? What were your options, practically thinking?
You know, how did I end up there? So I was driving from North London to West London. My office was in North London. Now, anyone who knows that stretch, that is about 1.5 hours drive with in good traffic. Otherwise, it's good 2 hours. So 5 minutes from so how did I get into that situation? First of all, there was a series of things that happened that affected the whole day. That morning, for me sitting down having a breakdown in my car, what had happened was this. Not many people know this story. That morning, my wife said, I need to take our daughter, Tiana, to the doctor. I think she wasn't well. I can't remember what happened, but she wasn't well. Something wasn't right. So I took her to the doctor. And you got to remember at that time, she must be about maybe 3 or 4. So I remember taking her to the doctor. No, I said to my wife, I can't because I'm busy. It's a busy day. There's no way. But in the end, I agreed because she wasn't too well. And I said, okay, I'll drop her to the doctor and then I'll drop her to nursery, then I'll get to work. So I fixed my morning. And so when I arrived at the doctor examined her, then gave her a prescription, gave us a prescription for her for some medication. And then the doctor said, oh, Mr. Attram, how are you doing? I said, yeah, fine. We don't see you, man. We don't see you much. We see your wife, we see your child, but we haven't seen you for many years. How's your health? I said, everything's good. And she said, oh, before you go, while you're here, just to update our records, can we just have a quick checkup? And I said, look, not today. I can arrange another time and come. And she said, hold on, Mr. Attram, you're here. It'll take 2 or 3 minutes. That's it. And so I said, okay. So she sat me down, asked me some questions. She was logging things in. And how do you feel on these days or whatever? And then can we take your blood pressure? So she put the thing on. And yeah, I'd rolled up my sleeve. She put her thing on. I'm sitting there like this. And I'm just thinking about work. And she says, huh. I look at her face. Her face was in shock. She said, your blood pressure is really high. So high, it's very dangerously high. I said, what are you talking about? She said, I don't know what's going on, but your blood pressure is too high. And we need you to go and take some blood tests. And I need you to do this, this, and that. All these, while she was speaking, all I could hear is blah, 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 blah. I said, but all I can remember is that my father suffered a stroke from high pressure. So now I'm thinking, that's what's going through my head. So, I just playing out the same as my dad. Saying, my goodness, that's what's going through my head. Anyway, she booked for me to go for the blood. Anyway, it was all a blur. I dropped my daughter to the nursery, sorted out a prescription thing, drove to work. This is an hour and a half drive to get there, and all these things going through my head. The whole day at work was a blur. I don't remember the whole day. I was making decisions, things were happening. And that evening, driving home, and I'm thinking about this thing, saying that I've got to go and get the blood test. I've got to come back to the doctor. What if I'm heading for the same as my dad? 5 minutes from home, I stopped my car in this parking lot, my hands on the wheels, feeling sorry for myself, thinking, how did I get here where I'm totally broke? I'm over 100 grand in debt. I've got lots of credit cards to pay off, loans to pay off. I'm not seeing much of my wife because I'm working all these hours. I'm not seeing much of my first child because I'm working all these hours. This is not the life I really wanted. And everything just came tumbling down. I'm thinking, I'm such a failure. I can't pay my bills. I can't pay my staff. My customers are complaining. Things are not going right. And it's just like a dark place. And I'm sitting there sobbing and crying, thinking, is this my life? This is not what I intended to be at this age. And that evening, I remember I got home that evening, it was all a blur. But over the next few days, I started thinking, I've got to fix my health. I've got to get the blood test done. And I started to think, how do successful people really do business? How do they become successful in business? How do these rich people become rich? How do they become wealthy? Because there's something I don't know. So I remember I said to myself, I've got to study this. So I went on a journey of self-discovery. I started going to uh, workshops around personal development, business development, wealth creation, success principle, mindset. I would read books on all these topics. And here's the funny thing. My father, on his bookshelf at home, had all these books that for years as a child, I'll look at it, it's there, but I'll never read it. But in my moment of despair, I'd pick up, there's a book called Think and Grow Rich. There's a book called How to Win Friends or Influence People. There's a book on this book. I said, my goodness, all these things were staring right at me. And I started devouring these books and then buying my own. And my father, unbeknownst to me, had been trying to advise me in his own way. But when you're young and ambitious, you think you know everything. And so the change and the transformation came from reading the right books, going to the right workshops, getting the right mentors and coaches to support and help me. That's how I changed. So it took a moment where I realized my health was deteriorating, for me to make those decisions. Today, after a few months of part of what I started to do in order to regulate my blood pressure back was to really start looking at who am I, what I want to do. And I started to meditate. I started to pray more. I started to take time to actually, one of the books I read was, I think it was called Talk and Grow Rich, Talk and Grow Rich. It was written by someone who later became a mentor of mine. His name was Ron Holland. And in his book, he said, you, as an entrepreneur, you must take time to be in solitude and silence. But as an entrepreneur, I never took time to be in solitude and silence. I was go, 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 because I thought that's how I was on that hamster wheel. Go, 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 go. And when he said, in solitude and silence. In other words, have time to think, have time to be. So every morning I started praying, started being in silence. I started to strategize more instead of just be on the hamster wheel going, going, going. I had stopped my martial arts for a little while because I was just busy. I went back to exercise, went back to martial arts. Twice a week, get back my fitness. All these things helped.
If somebody, a young person, 27, 25, on or 45, 55, even a young person at the age of 60 is listening to this and asking himself a question, because I have found myself a lot of times in that place. I mean, recently I sent you a message. That's like, I can't, I can't do this. It's too much. And in a moment, like sometimes you sit down and you ask yourself, what am I doing? I mean, I consider myself even part of the lucky few in life. But for those who life is really hard on, they are watching this and they are saying, my goodness, this is exactly how I feel. The first question is, what is the thing that they should do immediately? The second thing is, how can they reach out to you if they want to help, if you don't want your help?
If you can resonate with any part of my experience or my story, and you're going through anything similar, if I could rewind back and think, okay, I was in this moment of despair, things weren't going right. What would I do? And I think knowing what I know now and having trained and coached hundreds of thousands of people worldwide, it all comes from a place of awareness. So stage one is awareness, which is, oh, okay, now I'm aware of this. I'm aware of my situation. Because the opposite of awareness is denial. It's like, or ignorance. Well, I didn't know about it, or just denying it's there. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going through stuff. If you sit down and you look at how things are going or not going, and be truthful and honest with yourself, you will have a sense of awareness. From awareness is now, we need to now look at how do we go through the transformation of what we want. And that transformation only comes through changing your mindset. How are you going to change your mindset? So that mindset is full of beliefs, it's full of programming. And the only way to do that is by going on a journey of self-discovery like I did. So now you're going to get some knowledge. If you want to transform into this, how do I do that? Because if you've never done it before, how are you going to do it? And so the only way to do it, I believe, is through practice. But what are you going to practice? Well, if you start reading certain books on the topic that you want to transform into, if you start going to the workshops or getting mentor, I've had lots of mentors who I've never met. I've had mentors who I've met and they've directed me. I've had mentors and mentors directly who I've never met. I've read their books, I've seen their videos, I've watched their back in those days, DVDs. DVDs. I don't know if you remember and before DVD, you might changed. We had VHS cassettes watching personal development stuff. Do you understand? VHS cassettes, then DVDs, and audio cassettes. I don't know if you, but I'd watch and I'd listen. I'd watch and I'd listen to these mentors who going through their experiences and giving advice, and I'll take those and I'll religiously just take action on them. So number one is the awareness. Number two, change the beliefs through having the right mindset. And number three, take massive action. Take action on the information that you just acquired. Because that information, when you add action to it, becomes knowledge. Knowledge, in other words, know-how. Now I know how to do this. Because lots of people, you see, we live in a world where there's so much information. There is so much information. And every day we're getting bombarded with so much information. So I start to think, what if there is so much information, much more information than when I was going through my struggle? There's so much going through my struggle. I had to pay for information. I had to order cassettes and books and all this. But now, when you go into TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, people are giving you YouTube free information. So if that's the case, why aren't more people successful? Why aren't more people thriving? Because it's one thing to know what to do, and it's totally different to do what you know. So learn and do. That's one of my mentors says, learn and do. So stage one, get the awareness and be honest with yourself. Stage two, start changing your mindsets and beliefs and programming from your childhood or from years before. And step three, take massive action. Turn that information into knowledge, into know-how, and then you will continue to thrive. Take action. But you see, I say take action. Sometimes when people are confused, they don't know what the right action is. Do I take this action or this action? Do something. But the fastest way I've found to create change is to have someone who is going to support you and hold you accountable. So for me, those became coaches who would hold me accountable for me to do what I said I'm going to do, for me to watch my numbers and to direct me and to say, look, maybe look at it this way. And as entrepreneurs, as founders, what I found is some people, a lot of us get into places where sometimes there will be confusion or lack of clarity or a lack of motivation or things not going the right way. And who can you talk to? Your friends that you grew up, they be in a different place or working in a corporate job. They don't understand what you're going through. So find a coach who understands and avoid people who have never done it. Avoid people who talk it and they don't do it. In my early days, there were a lot of people around me who working in corporate jobs, and I'm talking about my business career, my entrepreneurial journey, and they're trying to advise me, but they've never done it. So I had to surround myself with the right type of mentors who've been there, done it, had the experiences, that I can listen to it and go through my transformation.
If somebody is watching this and wants to reach out to you, what is the best way to reach out to you?
If you're watching this right now and then you can resonate to any part of my story, reach out to me, whichever social media platform you're on. Send me a message, drop me a line, or go to my website, mac@attram.com. And just find me, drop me a message, and let's see how we can support you.